This is the Roller and the Stroller podcast. I'm Josiah, the roller, and I was born with cerebral palsy and navigate the world in a wheelchair alongside my best friend Kelly, the stroller.
In this podcast, we discuss living with a disability, adapting to surroundings in a wheelchair, and the challenges we face together. We talk about things like going to concerts, traveling, everyday tasks, and sports.
But also get into deeper topics like religion, self-talk, medical needs, and some of the frustrations of using a wheelchair. We will give insight on how to enjoy life with a disability
and share advice on how to understand someone with a disability.
Welcome to the Roller and the Stroller.
This podcast is a Sidewallstudios production. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Roller and the Stroller podcast.
We back, baby! I am Josiah. I'm your resident roller.
And I am Kelly, and I am your stroller. And today's topic, we're going to be talking about one of our favorite things to do together, concerts.
Yeah, buddy! Let's go!
It's really, really fun. Josiah and I connect heavily on music, and he has been such a gentleman and came to all the concerts that he didn't really want to go sometimes with me, and vice versa. But
no, it's just people I didn't know, or bands I didn't know. And you've done that the same thing for me, and that's what we're gonna get into, and everything in terms of the venue that I look for, with me being in a wheelchair, and kind of the ADA seating area, all of that.
Mm-hmm. And I think this is an important episode for people to listen to because most of us can walk, and most of us, we don't even know how blessed we are to not go through all the stuff that you have to go through. The thing about this is, guys, is that we go to so many different venues. Sometimes we don't even know what to expect, what we're going to run into, especially if it's...
And in different states as well.
Right, yeah. And so we'll talk about how Josiah navigates all that and how I help him, but also how he does it without anybody there, because I think that is really, really interesting. And honestly, I don't know the answer to some of the questions I'm going to be asking.
We're going to talk about, if you are in a wheelchair, it is possible to go to a concert and have a great time. So a lot of people think that because I'm in a wheelchair, I don't like to do all these things like go to concerts, and that's just not true. I've been to many a concert, many a time.
So let me start off with this. When was your first concert? How old were you?
Well, my first concert was when I was 12 years old, and it was at the then Pepsi Center, now called Ball Arena, and it was Clay Aiken and Kelly Clarkson.
Oh, the American Idol tour?
It was.
What?
It was. And we were in the upper level, so we were nowhere near close to the front. Obviously, it was my mom and the younger bracket of my family, so about 5 of us.
Can I interrupt? Josiah, he divides his family members into brackets. So if you hear him say younger bracket, middle bracket, upper bracket, that's what he's referring to.
That's how I keep track. And then we went to the Clay Aiken and Kelly Clarkson tour. Didn't particularly like Clay Aiken,
but Kelly Clarkson slaps.
And Kelly Clarkson, though, she slaps.
I forgot we went to Kelly Clarkson together a few years ago. That'll be fun. That was a good one. Mm-hmm. Kelly Clarkson's amazing live.
So that was my first concert, and obviously I was with my siblings and my mom, so there wasn't a whole lot to worry about in terms of space. There were seats, and then obviously I had a companion seat with me, so there's a wheelchair spot usually, and then they will have a companion seat, but there's only one companion seat, so it was my mom, and then my siblings had to sit somewhere else.
Were you nervous about your first concert? What were you expecting because of accessibility, wise?
I was nervous because it was a big arena, and I've never been to anything like that before. The first thing I do really is to locate the nearest exit that I can get to, and what's in my way, whether that's be a chair or whether that be people. So locating the first exit, the nearest exit that I can get to, and then what is going to be in my way, and then how I navigate that, whether I have to shift or whether I have to do a spin move in my chair or whatever. As a young child, that stuff had not really been on my mind because I was with my mom and I was with my family. So why would I ever have to worry about that? But as I've gotten older and gone to places myself, particularly concerts, those are things I have to be worried about.
Yeah, and I think the Ball Arena is it's a big venue. So there's a lot of room for you to kind of move around and stuff like that. And there's a lot of different exits and hallways you can go down and elevators and stuff. But if we talk about the smaller venues that we've been to, I think the smallest we ever went to was it the Black Sheep or the Oriental? That's do you think's the smallest there? I think it's the Black Sheep.
Yeah, it's between those two.
Yeah, so the bigger venues, the Mission Ballroom we went to, we saw A Day to Remember, and that was the first time that I have ever been to that venue. I would say the layout of that was really good. I really liked, first of all, the people were super helpful when you rolled in and I strolled in. They told us where the elevators were. It was super easy. We were at the accessible level and that was wide open. It was beautiful. There was bars everywhere, so it wasn't tough to get to the bar. The bathrooms were right there. Tell me if you disagree, but I think they did a really great job in their accessible section by making everything kind of super close.
Yeah, and then also like the sound was really
God, the
great.
sound was amazing.
And also A Day to Remember happens to be my favorite band, shameless plug. But yeah, I really liked the Mission Ballroom. Obviously, it was a different experience. We weren't at the front. We weren't like at the barriers. We were just in the accessible section, which we had to be in that particular venue because it was huge. And the pit area in particular was massive. So we couldn't have gotten anywhere close to the stage. Even if we were down there, we would get trampled on.
Yeah, I think that venue is so big that I remember specifically telling you that I was glad that we were in the accessible section.
Yeah.
And I will say for those of you that go to the Mission Ballroom that they don't have a ton of stairs if you are worried about that. In your wheelchair, the elevators are super great. The bathrooms are right there. There's like 3 bars at the top level. The accessible is really wide open. It's not cramped and there's room next to you and behind you. I think they did a really great job. But yeah, you're right. The pit is so massive. If you and I were in there, I think we would be okay. But if something were to happen, we would be screwed. I mean, honestly, we would be screwed. That place is huge.
The Mission Ballroom is a newer venue, so it has to keep in mind accessibility and like, what if this happens? What if that happens? Hypotheticals like, can someone who is in a wheelchair exit the venue safely? Can they access the bar? Can they access the elevator? Can they access the restrooms? And then also like the bars, the safety bars, not the alcohol bars, but the safety bars. Are they accessible to hold on to? Are they stable? Are they wobbly? Because if they were wobbly and they would bend or break or whatever, I could fall and I could die.
Yeah.
So they have to keep that in mind. And also the width of the wheelchair, mine in particular, is a little bit slender, but if they had a medical wheelchair, those are usually wider, so they have to keep the hallways clear, all of that, and they did a really good job. That was an awesome venue to be at, because also the sound, I felt like I was just in the experience as a whole.
I think also what they did great was they did have a row in front of us, but they were significantly lower. So there wasn't anybody like right in front of us that would block your view. Because I think we'll talk about like what happens when your view gets blocked because you can't really do anything about it. So shout out to the Mission Ballroom. They did an amazing job with their accessible area. The sound is great. The lights were really good. I think overall, I wouldn't want to be in the pit with you though, like for sure, at that venue anyway.
Yeah, I agree. And my favorite part was like that they weren't tiny stick figures. You could actually see them. So they had a really great line of sight. And like you said, the row in front of us was lower, so they could see, and also like I could see, because that was the accessible section. So they need to keep in mind line of sight. And so they did a really good job. Shout out, follow them.
Yeah, I don't know their social media, but
I don't know.
Shout out the Mission Ballroom in Denver.
We'll add it in post.
Okay, so when we first went to a concert, it was at Fiddler's Green, which...
That was Snoop Dogg, which we mentioned before.
Yeah, and it was raining and it was icy, and Josiah decided we had lawn tickets. Thank you to the radio station for getting us those. So we didn't have, if you've ever been to Fiddler's Green, it's basically like you get seating up front, or if you have a lawn ticket, it's way in the back, but it's still really good seating because it's on a like a slant, so you can see everything. But in the lawn, you just kind of have to go for it and hopefully that nobody's in your way. So Josiah was like, oh, I don't care that it's snowing and icy. I want to go down all the way down to the beginning of the field so I can see. And I had no choice. I literally did not agree with him, but he started rolling down this grass. And I was like, if I don't help him, he is going to slide all down this grass and hits people. You were also not sober.
I probably did.
You were not sober. And that's okay.
Are you
it's
gonna
fine.
say that?
I mean, it's true.
I am of age.
It was 420.
I think it was, I think it was not alcohol. It was the devil's lettuce.
Yes. And I was sober because I was driving. We slid down ice and snow to be at the front barrier of Fiddler's Green. And everybody was high. Everybody was drunk. So not a lot of people moved out of our way.
No, and that's why we took them out, I think.
Don't say we.
You were with me.
You took them out with your wheel. No, I'm just kidding. He didn't really take them out. We kind of just...
I gave them a gentle nudge to remind them that I was there.
Also, we don't...
and that nudge area might have been their knees, but that's neither here nor there.
Yeah, we don't condone that anymore.
We do not condone violence.
Somebody was not nice. In his sober mind when he did this.
Be nice to people. And
so, question, do you think that people didn't get mad at you for doing that because you're in a wheelchair? Because if it was me, do you think they would have done something? Or were they all too high that they didn't even care?
You know what? I think usually yes, but that night was like, it was Snoop Dogg and it was Migos and everybody was high. Everybody was passing blunts.
Yeah, they were.
So
everyone was super nice.
Everyone was super nice, and I don't know if that's usually the case because I've been to Fiddler's Green after that, and it wasn't the case.
Yeah, I think it was just the Snoop Dogg crowd. They were so
the vibe.
Cool. They're so cool. I've seen Snoop Dogg 3 times
and
now.
And it was older people.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Super cool. So that was a fun experience. I would not recommend wheelchairing down Fiddler's Green grass, especially if it's icy and snowing and everybody is super stoned. But Josiah said, YOLO, we're going to do this. And we did.
Also, but Fiddler's Green is not a smaller venue. It's like a huge amphitheater. Can you think of the smallest venue we've been to?
I would say the Black Sheep or the Oriental. So let's talk about the Black Sheep because I've only been to the Black Sheep with you once. Okay.
Yeah.
I want to know, what is your experience at the Black Sheep? By the way, guys, if you've never been to the Black Sheep, it's a really small venue in Colorado Springs and it's one level. The bar is in the back. There's one entrance. The stage is right next to where you stand. There's no barriers. It is tiny. You have to sardine in there, which is kind of scary for the big bands that come through there. And so I want to ask you, tell me about some of your experiences at the Black Sheep without me. Have you ever been to the Black Sheep by yourself with nobody else accompanying you?
No, because if it's not you, I usually meet someone there and we hit it off. So my older brother was in a band, and then my brother-in-law is currently in a band, and they both played at the Black Sheep. But for local bands, it's not usually as packed. And so people move out of the way. You have room because there's not as many people there. I was there for a band called Beartooth when they were coming up. And if you know anything about Beartooth, they go hard. And like we mentioned before on this podcast, that's the kind of music that Kelly and I like. This was before I met you or anything like that. And my brother's band was opening for them. So obviously a few of my family members were there, but they weren't close to me. I was like, I am going to get smushed. I'm going to get trampled on. I'm going to fall out of my chair because people for Beartooth have no awareness and they do the karate chop flaring legs and all of that. And then that was the first time that I was like, oh, actually, I need to think of a safety route and like an exit strategy in case of emergency, because it's packed in, like you said, sardines. People will move in my experience, but also it could take them a longer time. And in that case, like, I need to just get out.
So I've noticed 3 exits at the Black Sheep. Mm-hmm. There's one, that the bands use behind the stage. There's the one that's kind of to the front of the venue that that workers go in. And then there's the main entrance that all the people that have tickets go. I don't know if there's any more, but those are the 3 that I've personally seen. Out of those, only one of them you can go through. Because the stage, you need to walk, you need to jump on stage, and then there's some steps. And then the other one at the front, there's steps to go in there. So the only one that you could literally wheel out is the ticketing one.
Yeah, I had to be very conscious of that. And also the restrooms in that venue are like small little, once you get in there, it's like big and I can do my thing or whatever. But like getting in there, I'm scraping the sides with my chair. Like, it is not wide enough for my chair. I'm going to be honest with you. One time I had to go so bad that I leapt out of my chair so I could get in. And then my chair was in front of the entrance to the bathroom so nobody else could get in without moving my chair. That's a problem.
Yeah. Those bathrooms are really tiny.
Tiny.
And the bar is in a weird section too, because it's like, think of it as like it's shaped like a D. Like the D is like where the pit, and then the top part of the D is like where all the merch in the bar is. So, and by the way, guys, the Black Sheep has a very low ceiling, so it makes it seem even smaller. They do have an outdoor area that every once in a while they have some summer concerts out there. We had a really good experience at the Black Sheep, but it was because of the band that they did this. So I don't believe there's any accessible scenario at the Black Sheep. They just say good luck.
They do.
Yeah.
It do be like that sometimes,
and that's
to be
fine.
honest.
Yeah.
I mean, you're here at your own risk.
Right. There's no seats. It's all standing or sitting in your chair.
And then so
and if you're in the back, you can't see shit. You are literally screwed.
Yeah, you want to talk about Every Time I Die?
So Josiah and I went to go see one of his favorite bands, Every Time I Die, which he also lost his phone. And shout out to the gentleman that found it on the street and brought it to us. So we were there kind of late because we had to work, or it was your last day.
It was my last day at our mutual workplace. I was like, Kelly, to celebrate, you're going to go to this concert with me. And she was like, okay, I don't know who they are really. Well, I think you've heard of them before, but you didn't know any of their music. But you went with me because you're so kind. And it was at the Black Sheep. When we get in there, it is packed out.
They sold out. So they sold as many tickets as they could. But once we got in the venue, as soon as you got through the ticket booth, that's where you were. Like you couldn't even move anywhere else. Like there was no more room. So as soon as we entered the venue, that's where we were. I was standing and you were sitting. We could not move any. I tried to go get a drink. I could not even get through the people. It was so crazy.
Yeah. And then I was like, do you want to try moving up? And I realized pretty quickly we couldn't. We were stuck.
Well, I told you no. And here is the reason why. One, we couldn't, but two, we were right by the door and there were so many people there that I was terrified. And I said, if something happens, if a fire breaks, because we all know Every Time I Die, those people go crazy. Like the fans go nuts. They hang from the rafters. They grab the mic. They hop on stage. They go nuts. You know, worst comes to worst, a fire breaks out. We are right by the exit. So I was like, no, we're not moving.
And I was like, I agree.
Why don't you kind of tell us what happened? It's amazing, by the way.
Kelly and I are in the back. I'm jamming out to the opening band. And then we see the lead singer's partner. And so she goes out, but then she comes back in and says, hey, do you want to get on side stage so you can see better? Because Keith saw you there. And then he was like, how can this person see? And I was like, yeah, because I can't see right now. And he was like, that's not good. That's not a good experience that we want to give our fans. So do you want to go side stage with us? And obviously I said, hell yeah. I said, can my friend Kelly come too? And they were like, of course. And we got to spend the whole show, the whole Every Time I Die set on the side stage with the band, which was sweet. And then we got to meet them, take pictures, and then talk to them for a little bit. It was pretty awesome. It's only happened to me one time before, and that was Warped Tour 2011. And then it was one of the security guards saw me get kicked in the back of the head during Enter Shikari from a crowd surfer. And he was like, no, do you want to get on the stage? And I said, of course I do, because next, bringing it full circle, was a day to remember.
Oh, wow.
And it truly was a day to remember.
So at the Black Sheep, neither one of us could see.
Neither one. And then even you who can stand could not see.
No. So anyway, that was a really cool experience that they brought us. And they gave us water and they gave us t-shirts. They were just super kind. And the thing about it is his sister had just died a few years ago, I think, and she was wheelchair or I can't remember.
Had a disability of some sort and used a wheelchair as well. So he was like, dude, I get it.
I think that Every Time I Die, they're no longer a band, but they did a really great
R.I.P.
Yeah, they did a really great job working with people with disabilities. They even put it on their Instagram. Like, if you have a disability, DM us. We'll figure it out for you because of their personal connection with their sister.
And because I don't think a lot of bands, that's their first go-to, or I'm not sure if they even think about that kind of thing. But I think because they had a sister who used a wheelchair, that is something they think about.
Yeah.
So that's really...
So the Black Sheep is not my favorite venue to go to with you.
No, it gets super hot.
It's probably my least favorite to go with you because it is scary, in my opinion.
It is scary. But if we're going to talk about smaller venues, let's talk about the Oriental.
Okay.
Because we were there twice now. Once for Memphis May Fire, my band.
Yeah.
And once for La Dispute,
My
which
band.
is Kelly's band.
First of all, can we talk about the name of this? They're not racist, guys. It is an old venue.
Yeah.
It's an old theater that was called the Oriental. And the way that they can change the name is like millions of dollars. So they even have a little spiel on their website that they're like, we love Asians, so we promise.
They acknowledge
Yeah.
the
So just want to throw that out there. They are not racist. They are amazing people. It's just the millions of dollars they'd have to spend to get the name changed.
Mm-hmm. And I think it's worth pointing out that the venue was built in like 1933.
Right.
So again, with accessibility issues, there is the ramp is a steep ramp.
It is very steep. So
It's very steep.
when you go into the Oriental, it's a smaller place, but it's really cute. I actually really liked it. I think the sound is great. But there's no steps. But the ramp to get down to the pit is very, very steep. I want to hear from you, because when you go to the restroom, I don't go with you unless there's steps. And I would ask you, do you need help? And you're like, nope. So tell me about that ramp going up and down that thing.
So you really when you're going uphill, you have to position your body in a way where if you fall backward in it could be even a tiny little thing. You have to like position yourself so that won't affect you and you can still get forward momentum while you can reach back and hit your wheels. I have a manual wheelchair, so I don't have a motor, I don't have an engine because my muscles are my engine. Okay. With that, I was like, I could get 3/4 of the way up and then there's a bump, a speed bump. So I was like, this makes no sense to me because I built all this momentum and then I hit the speed bump and then I'm going to fall backward. So luckily I have been in a situation where I just say, hey, random person that I just met, could you help me over this little speed bump here? And they've been able to do that and they've been willing to do that. So thank you. But like, that's the sort of thing that I have to be conscious of. Like, I'm not going to fall back and hurt myself and get a concussion potentially because I didn't ask for help. I'm just going to do it. And that is something I've learned to do, something I was not always good at, and something I'm not good at now.
Yeah, you're really not.
I'm not good at asking for help.
So
at all.
How about coming down?
Coming down is fun.
Oh my God.
Coming down is fun. Because I've been in a wheelchair for like 27 years of my entire existence. So I know how my body works in that position. So coming down for me is not scary until there's a little... Like I know, like for you listeners, you had no idea what I just said, but there's usually not this, but at the Oriental Theater, there is like a little uphill bunny hill thing. So I just go, pink, and I try to go over it,
pink.
But it doesn't always work out.
And you're like, I'm going to the restroom. And the thing is I kind of, when you leave, I hate when you leave because I have to hold the spot. Which is fine if I didn't have to hold a spot for your wheelchair because it's bigger. So like I'm trying to hold your spot and our friend sometimes that is with us and then room for your wheelchair. But people always seem to let you through. So that's really nice of them. Thank you guys. Appreciate it because it's stressful for me when you leave. And then I'm like, do you need help? And in my head, I'm like, I hope he doesn't need help because who's going to hold the spots?
Yeah, exactly. But luckily, At the Oriental and the Black Sheep, people have been nice to let me through what I need to do.
I don't think the Oriental Theater had too many problems.
The bathrooms are very small.
But security was super nice.
Security was super nice, yeah.
The thing is, though, with your wheelchair, if you don't get that front row spot, you really can't see. It is on a slant, which would kind of suck for you, I feel.
The Oriental is hard because it is on a slant.
Yeah, and I like the Oriental because there's exits up front.
Yes,
too.
There
so
is.
That's really, really cool, is there's exits at the front and the side and the back. So that's not really a theater that I'm worried about. Let's talk about the Summit. I think Summit is fun. We've been to the Summit quite a few times. One of my favorite band of all time is Thrice. And so Josiah and I went.
It is?
Yeah. Can you believe it? So Josiah and I have seen Thrice together like trillions of times. So
Five.
We went in and they were like, yeah, we'll put you in the accessible. And I was like, no.
That's not gonna work. And I said no too. I was like, no, I want to be at the front next to the barrier. And they were like,
they kind of were like, we have to ask our manager if that's allowed, because there are steps down to the front. So and I was like, I'll carry him. Like we'll find someone. We'll get you down there. It's not hard. Like there's like 2 steps. It's not like 400. They were nice enough to not let us sit in the accessible seating, which was really cool. We got to go to the front. But again, there's those 2 steps. There's exits at the front though, so that's really nice.
There are, yes.
But when you have to go to the bathroom again, it's just you asking random people to help you lift you up those 2 steps. The ramp though is very nice. It's not super steep at the Summit, and I think at the Ogden too.
It's on the side. So I when I need to go to the restroom, which this last time seeing Thrice, I don't think I did.
You couldn't
go to the restroom.
That was a very special show.
But the Summit usually has some good accessibility in terms of wheelchair use, and the ramp, like you said, is not steep, and I could get up there myself pretty easily, and I could go down myself without like having to conquer a lip.
That's a venue that you're either in the front row or in the accessible, or else you would have trouble sitting or seeing. So we did sit in the accessible spot for Silverstein. You remember?
Silverstein!
And that was really nice. I mean, we were next to that really weird guy that kept hugging us, but it was really nice. And there was that pregnant lady, and she was cool. And then those really drunk girls that were in the how do you feel about people that are in the accessibility area that don't need to be? Does that bother you?
No, to me that's fine. Usually I want though that like if there are wheelchair users besides me, I would rather them take precedence. So if there is a situation where they couldn't get an accessible ticket, I would want the venue to shift the accessibility section to accommodate, there's another person who uses a wheelchair here. Let's get them in the accessible seating or wherever they want to be. I don't want to sound like pretentious here, but that seating is like meant for people who use wheelchairs. So if there was another person, I would want them to be next to me in that section, but there wasn't at Silverstein.
Have you ever been in a scenario where you were in an accessible area and someone was also in the accessible area that, didn't need to be, and like stood in front of you and like didn't care?
I did. And then I was like, can you move? And they were like, no, I was here first. It happened at Warped Tour. Also, rest in peace. I was like, you're not even aware of your surroundings. You don't need to be here. You bought it. You bought these seats because they're on the riser. But you're in front of me who got these tickets specifically because I need to be on the riser in order to see and not to die at Warped Tour. And then they wouldn't move. And then so I had to shift to the other side where they were not. And then at the time, I was like, oh, they're here too. Like, they have just as much a right to this space as I do. But as I'm older, I realized that was kind of a dick move.
Yeah. I remember one time somebody at a venue asked you if you could stand up, and you were like, no.
I said no. That could be an entirely episode by itself. The stupid ass questions. Oh, sorry.
No,
the stupid ass questions I get. I can't stand up
for
long periods of time. I can't walk. Otherwise, I would be doing that. It's pretty clear that this wheelchair is for me. I don't know what to say. other than that.
Yeah, that's a really good episode topic we need to discuss about.
Okay, for sure.
So anyway, let's move on from Summit's great, Ogden's great. Tell me about Red Rocks. We've never been to Red Rocks together.
No, so Red Rocks is really cool actually. But the only accessible seating for wheelchairs is either the front row or row 70 all the way in the back. I've been to both areas. Row 70 for Brand New, rest in peace. Man, a lot of my favorite bands have.
Yeah, they're done.
And then the other time in the front row has been for Halsey. They have exit in the back, the very back row. So I don't need to worry about that necessarily because it's very accessible. And Red Rocks is essentially like benches. So they do have foot room, if you will, but I can push through it with my wheelchair and it leads to the main area. They have accessible restrooms, which they never fail to tell me about, which is really cool. They're single stall, which is awesome. And then I get first priority. Or people in wheelchairs get first priority for those. And then if somebody's not using them at the time, they're fair game for everyone else. And then the front row has an exit as well. And there's a ramp and all of that. The problem with Red Rocks that I have found is that it's nearly impossible to get accessible tickets. You have to get on a list and say, I'm in a wheelchair. You have to hit up their HR, or not their HR team, their PR team and tell them the situation, but then they will only allow one companion with you. So basically I'm going to a concert with one person. Usually that works out, but sometimes like we had a group of 3 and one person had to sit on the lawn. So sometimes we are split up, but Red Rocks has done usually, like I have no complaints. I would just say make it a little bit easier to get an accessible ticket.
So I really like the fact that Red Rocks has the first row as accessible. I think that's like really pretty freaking cool. Tell me about parking at Red Rocks because you do not have a handicap placard.
I do not.
Thank you.
We'll talk about that.
So Red Rocks, you have to get there early to get a good spot at the parking lot, or else you're parking way the hell down through the mountains. Not mountains, but I mean, yeah, kind of mountains.
The rocks.
They're definitely mountains.
The rocks.
And you have to go a long way. Like sometimes you're walking. Well,
there's a shuttle. There's a shuttle.
How have you ever used a shuttle?
Yeah, I
really?
used the shuttle.
I don't think I've ever used it. Do you try to get there early so you can get a parking lot spot?
We do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, or else you're like trekking through the freaking forest trying to get to that venue.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody who's been to Red Rocks knows exactly what I'm talking about, especially at night in the dark. There's people that have gotten lost trying to find their car at Red Rocks.
It's beautiful.
It is beautiful.
You should
but watch out for the rattlesnakes.
You should take a picture.
And the bears, the mountain lions, and now the wolves.
The wolves.
Yeah, it's scorpions. We have scorpions. Did you know that? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Anyway, so
but take a picture of where you parked.
Oh, good idea. But yeah, sometimes it's in the dark too, and you're just like sucks to suck.
And then it's up to you and Jeebus.
You're just praying to God. You're following the North Star to your freaking car. Anyway, so another great point of an episode is talking about your placard because you don't have one, and I think it's BS that you don't get one. So anyway, we can.
I don't get one right now, but
we'll
that could change.
That. Yeah, hopefully.
I just have to do some convincing.
Mm-hmm. Anyway,
DMV, help me out. Do you want to talk about like maybe how I'm treated, how you perceive that at concerts?
Interesting. I think that goes hand in hand with what I was going to go into. So yeah, let's do it. I know you pretty well, and you don't really like people helping you too much. You're getting better at it, which I appreciate because that's great. But when we go to concerts, from my point of view, I worry when it's just you and me. I always
Which oftentimes it is.
Oftentimes it is just you and me. But if my friend Andy comes, or our friend Key comes, or our friend Victor, or whatever.
Shout out all three of them.
Shout out to all of them.
Gems.
Yeah. I feel a lot better because if something were to go wrong, I have them to help me with you. A fire, or I mean, worst comes to worst, a threat comes in the building. You know, like you, when I go into a venue, the first thing I do is look for an exit. But now my first thought is, how do I get Josiah out of here if something was to happen? And that's how my point of view has changed since we've become friends. Because it is so easy for me to hop on stage and run away if something, were to happen, right? And most of the time the exits, some of them have stairs. And in a chaotic moment where everybody's going crazy and people trample each other and all that kind of shit happens, hopefully I have enough adrenaline and courage and help from Jesus to help me help you, right?
Yeah, because I don't think we have been, like, knock on wood, I don't think we have been in an emergency situation. Certainly not like an Astro World situation where people were just rushing the stage or whatever. But if there was a fire or if there was a gunman,
which is sad that we even have to think about that.
That
but
we have to
happens.
think about that. But it's a
thing.
It's a thing that happens.
Our friend was actually at the Las Vegas concert shooting.
Yeah, and that sucks that we have to talk about this.
Yeah.
But if we were in a situation like that, I would either have to hop on the stage with you, which I can do, but it takes me longer, obviously, and that would delay you or whoever was with me, because I would have to jump on stage, and then you would have to get the wheelchair up on stage, and we could roll out that way. But also, like, we don't know, like you said, some of the stages have stairs, so, like, we don't know if that's the best route. We don't know, like, if we should be in the back, my line of sight is not as good.
Yeah. So, I mean, let's go back to what you were, how you get treated at concerts. I think the security at every venue that we've been at has been super observant to you, and they talk to you and they talk to me about how you're doing, because you sit in a stance where, like, you're about elbow level to most people. So you can, like you said, get hit in the head or kicked in the head or all that kind of stuff. So people, in my opinion, especially when we're at the front row, the band is staring at you. Especially my boy Dustin from Thrice is just eyeing you down. He eyes us both down. He loves us. And then the security guard, especially the ones that we just went to, House of Blues, Anaheim, those people were really amazing.
That was probably can I say that? That was probably my favorite venue we went to.
Oh, that venue was amazing, guys. If you can ever go to the House of Blues, Anaheim, it's amazing. The security does a really great job of making sure you're okay, I think. Do you feel the same, or?
I do too, because particularly for that Thrice show, there was a couple times where I was like, I need some water. And they were like,
yeah.
Get him
They got
water.
you.
Yep.
So I really don't know if that's just like extra attention or them just doing their job, because they have to look out for you, because you can't move around as easily as I can if something were to happen. Right.
And
you're lower to the ground.
I don't make it easy on anybody either. Like, I am not. So usually you sit in a wheelchair, obviously, but I like to get on my knees. I like to take my shoes off.
Yeah, your Mulan shoes.
I like to be holding the barrier. That's my optimum. That's my optimum concert viewing experience. However, if we were to get out of there in a rush, and you grab my wheelchair handles, I am falling out.
Yeah,
so
because
that's not.
First of all, you don't ever wear your seatbelt.
Yes.
Ever. Anyway, I'm just gonna keep throwing you under the bus here.
So
sorry.
we do have to worry about that.
Yeah. So okay. So going back to the attention that you're getting at concerts, how do you feel? Because I think this used to bother you a lot about people touching your wheelchair.
It does.
I know it bothers you because it is an extension of your body, right? So, and I wouldn't want people touching me, but it's a concert. People touch you, but there have been times where I have been so grateful for the people that have been right next to you. Because I remember, where were we? God, where were we? I forget where we were. But this guy, he interlocked his legs behind your wheels because you were raging so hard. You were headbanging so hard that you were just going everywhere. So he looked at me and he was like, I got him. I was like, oh my God, thank you. And he shoved his feet underneath your wheelchair so you could go crazy and you weren't moving.
So he got rolled over. His feet rolled over.
He was awesome. Shout out to that guy. Where were we? We were probably at the summit.
Was it Story? In Del Mar.
Was it Story? It might have been Story. Shout out St. Louis.
Del Mar was awesome.
That venue was awesome.
Story of the year was awesome. Superb.
They were
stupendous.
Fantastic live.
But I'm trying to think of who I would have been raging to
It was probably story of the year, honestly.
Yeah.
But I remember that specific because you kind of looked at him like, what the hell are you doing holding on to me? But he didn't care what you thought. He was going to have, he locked his feet. And I thought that was like super nice, even though I know you didn't like it. But then if it wasn't for him, you would have been all over the place. And I didn't have to do it. And I was like, thank God.
Probably.
So shout out to that guy. But then at the most recent concert we went to, that girl.
Yeah.
She was a badass.
Dude, we were getting crushed.
We went to
Everyone
Thrice.
was there. Tell them, like, it was not only Thrice.
It was not
but
only
it was
Thrice.
special Thrice.
So Thrice did 4 shows of a 20-year anniversary of their album, The Illusion of Safety. It was sold out within less than a minute. You know, we snagged tickets. My friend Victor had to buy resale tickets for like almost $300. So we flew for like a 1-night stay in Anaheim, and we got there super early. We were first in line. Which is interesting to me, because sometimes when we're first in line, or sometimes when we're not first in line, they take us out of the line and put us first because of your accessibility, and some venues don't. So it just depends on the venue. This venue did, but we were first in line anyway, so it didn't really matter. And so again, I think they asked if we wanted accessible seating, and we were like, nah, we want to go to the front. So that was a very special show. People flew from all over, not just the States, but all over the world to come to this show. I know there's some people that flew in from like Australia. And Thrice is from California, so it was just a big deal. Everybody in Anaheim knew it was happening. It was just like really cool. So we were packed in there like sardines. If you move, you're not getting back to your spot.
And we came up with a game plan. We were like, okay, Kelly will go straight to the merch table. We'll grab our merch. And then Victor and I will go straight to the barrier, to the front line. And then we won't move. And then we'll hold a spot for Kelly.
Yeah. And then when you two went to the bathroom, I struggled to hold that much room, but I did it.
I know.
Shout out to me.
Shout out.
And so anyway, let's back to the girl that was behind you. She held your wheelchair the whole time. Did you know that?
No, I didn't know.
The whole time.
I must be like a Beats to be in the back of at concerts, because at this point, the reason I get in that position.
What did you just say? You must be a what?
Is a Beats.
By the way, do you want to explain what that means?
No.
Okay.
Do you?
We're gonna say it all the time.
Yeah.
Okay, so Beats is just basically Josiah and I's way of saying bitch.
So yeah, so that there's a longer story. We were trying to stop swearing as much, so we came up with Beats. So we say Beats often. We will probably say it on the podcast. You're just gonna have to deal with it. Beats. But I realized that I am probably a pain in the butt to be in the back of at concerts, because the reason I get on my knees in the optimal position holding the barrier at concerts is for headbanging room. When I headbang, the chair moves.
Yeah. Even with your brakes on.
Yep.
It moves. So this girl, she was a sweetheart. Her and I were talking, and she, again, locked her feet behind your wheels and held onto your wheelchair the whole time. And then next to her was another girl who kind of teamed up with her. And to be fair, they were probably also using your wheelchair as stability, because that moshing was insane. Mm-hmm. And then there was a guy next to that girl, and they all three kind of built a barrier around you, which I thought was pretty cool of them, because they didn't have to do that. And yeah.
No, they didn't.
They were very cool. So most of the time people look out for you, which helps me a lot, because me and Victor got separated by that. Yeah, I pulled a girl up because she was like dying. So I pulled her up in front of next to me, and Victor and I got separated. But it's stuff like that makes me feel a lot better. I know you're not a huge fan of people touching your wheelchair, and I totally understand why. But if they have good intentions about it, it makes me feel a lot better, because I can't.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, and crowd surfing is scary for me, so I can't even imagine how it is for you.
Yeah. So I saw Beartooth at the Black Sheep, but I also saw Beartooth open for Memphis Mayfire. I think it was at the Marquee. And the Marquee, if you've ever been, is a small venue. I think it's still around. people like to crowd surf during Beartooth. Shout out to Beartooth. I love you guys, all of you. And I'm not trying to like rain on your parade, but you have some intense crowd surfers. And again, I got kicked in the head, so I had to move. Granted, it was both times I've gotten kicked in the head was like a brush of the shoe, so it wasn't like a full-on foot to the head. Otherwise, I would have gotten a concussion. That's still a safety concern, and even the security guard pointed at me and was like, "You good? You okay?" Like, and I was like, "I'm fine." Like, and then they were like, "Why didn't you move over here, like away from the main crowd surfers?" They were very conscious of having a position or somewhere to be for me to be in the venue. Both times I've been kicked in the head, except for the black sheep.
Yeah, black sheep's tough.
Black sheep is just tough.
I mean, you can get kicked in the head from the people that hang from the rafters.
I know.
I mean, you're screwed if you go into the black sheep. It's an experience, but like, be prepared. So the attention that you get is, I wouldn't say over the top, but it is helpful to me when you get extra attention at concerts, because I can't do it alone. I really can't sometimes, especially if something were to happen. Like you said, if a shooter came in or a fire broke out, most people, oh yeah, we'll help you. And then they freak out and they're gone.
Well, it's that old philosophy of you got to help yourself in order to help someone else. And in those situations, you're like, well, I got to help myself.
If there's a fire, I just pray I have enough adrenaline to pick you up. Forget your wheelchair. Sorry, rest in peace, Fury. But hopefully I can just pick you up and go.
That's often what I had to do because at my workplace, which I will not reveal this time, we have emergency protocols. And I'm like, there comes a certain situation where I'm going to have to ditch the chair.
And if there's a shooter, and this is really sad, but I'm going to admit this, that I do add this into my prayers when I'm praying to God, that I have the bravery and the courage within me to do something about it. So like, if a shooter were to come into a concert, I'm risking my life for you. Like, I'm going to go tackle the dude because there's no other option for me to save you. Right?
Like, I have a plan with that. Would you like to know?
Yeah.
My plan?
Yeah.
So, my wheelchair is made out of titanium. So what I would do, and this kind of screws me, right? Because I am automatically limiting my mobility. But also, in a circumstance where there is a gunman, I'm going to have to do that. So either like we make a quick getaway where we try to escape, or we stay put. So basically, I get out of my wheelchair, heft my wheelchair over me, so the metal protects me, then grab the cushion as a shield as well. But that's what see, that's how far I've gotten.
Yeah.
That's my plan where I'm like, I'm going to use I don't know if it would work. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know if it would work at all. But I'm like, I think about this thing because I have to, because that's the world we live in. And I'm just like, this is my best shot to survive.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's just one of those things where I go to a concert with you, I just have to think differently.
Yeah. I
have to be like, okay, well, if there's a gunman, I'm going to do everything in my power to take them out before he kills my friend or literally anybody else.
Or you.
Well, I mean, I'm going to heaven. So, okay. I mean, I'd rather risk my life and you live than like, I'm cool. Like,
we've already talked about this off air.
Yeah. So
we're not surviving without the other.
No, it's not going to happen. So, okay. What else that maybe I don't recognize during concerts that is more of a battle for you? I think there was one time, I think it was that story there, where they had to like feel your butt. Do you remember that? When we had to go through those metal detectors?
Yeah.
That was awkward.
Where I get filled up.
How do you feel about getting filled up?
I get filled up. Well, that's what I know what it is to be a woman.
Oh, I did get felt up at that concert, and that security guard helped me out. He was like, I'm going to kill that. Not kill, but he pretty much said that guy that kept, and you were about to kill that guy too.
Yeah, I looked at him and gave him one of these.
Yeah, so that was a good time. That was a great time in my life.
Because you have beebs.
Because I have beebs, and he kept grabbing my beebs, and I was like, get the f*** off of me, and he kept doing it. And then finally that security guard was like, I'm going to rip his head off. And I was like, please do.
Yeah.
Anyway, that had nothing to do with this, but good times. That was at a concert, so maybe it did have something to do with it. I don't know. Don't fill up girls at a concert just because you blame it on, well, everyone's touching anyway. Don't be that guy.
Don't
or
be that
girl.
guy. Or girl.
Or
human being.
Human being.
Human being. What was your worst experience with me at a concert?
My worst experience
Yes, your
with
worst
you.
experience.
That's really hard. I can't think of a really bad scenario. I think the scariest, in my opinion, was the black sheep. I just didn't feel good about how many people were in there. But once we got moved to the stage, I was fine. But if we would have stayed where we were, I probably wouldn't have liked it.
We would have left early, probably.
Yeah, because every time I die, their fans are really
Die hard.
Yeah, die hard and animated, and it's great, and I love that. But it would be scary even if you weren't there. It would still be scary for me. So I don't know if I've necessarily had a bad experience except for the Fiddler's Green when we went to Disrupt Fest.
That's what I was gonna say.
And that is a whole nother episode that I think.
Well, regardless of yes, that was the time that we fought. I'm gonna be honest with you, listeners. Regardless of that fact, it was because it was not accessible. Because I felt stuck where I was. Because there is technically an accessible route to get there for wheelchairs if you use a wheelchair, but it's just so mazy and so hard to find that it's just frustrating. And a lot of the times I run into that situation, they have the bare minimum of accessibility because that's what the law requires. And I'm like, it's just a pain in the behind to get there. And so I was really frustrated, and they didn't have elevators. They don't have elevators there. They have little janky lifts, and you have to have a staff member to operate the lifts, but the staff member is below. So
and the lifts are only on one side of the venue. They're not on both sides.
Yeah.
When we went, I don't know what it's like now. I haven't really gone back, but yeah, you were really frustrated and you were really heated, and maybe I didn't give you the space that you needed, but that wasn't really necessarily the worst concert. It was just the scenario.
Yeah, it was the worst experience that I've had a concert with you, though.
Yeah, I can't really think. I mean, I know we were a little emotional after the Story of the Year concert, but I don't really know why. I have no idea why we were emotional.
I know why.
Why?
Should we get into it this episode?
No.
We'll save that for another episode.
I mean.
I do know why.
Okay. Okay. Cool.
Cliffhanger.
Ooh. Okay. What's your best concert? And it can be with me or not with me. I don't care.
Oh, best concert. Okay. So I have to tell you something. You know that I have this guitar that I have that is signed by Under Oath.
Yeah.
I was at a festival and it was called Heaven Fest. Do you remember Heaven Fest?
No.
Bunch of Christian bands.
Was Mercy Me there?
No.
Was Avalon there?
Switchfoot.
Oh, Switchfoot is freaking baller live.
Ballin'.
They're so good.
Ballin'. Okay.
Yeah.
So I love their album, A Beautiful Letdown. Shout out. We're mentioning a bunch of bands, giving them all shout outs. But Switchfoot was the headliner. Who is before them? Under Oath. And this is pretty awesome because I pushed my way to the front with my sister. But then there was crowd surfers. The first song was In Regards to Myself, which starts with a record. It goes, and so people get ready because they know it's coming. And then they know, go ham, essentially. They saw me, get pushed to the front where my back wheels left the ground. And so security was like, no. And other people were like, hey, you gotta, do something about this. So they lifted my wheelchair up over the barrier to get me on the other side of the barrier. So there's nothing between me and the stage. So I'm lifted up. I go over the barrier, and then I get to see the band real close. At the end of their set, Timmy McTague gives me his guitar.
Okay, hold on. I know we were going to end this, but this goes back to the attention that you get.
Uh-huh.
So, first of all, I wrote something down. I said, if you weren't in a wheelchair, do you think you could have gone to the front?
No.
No.
We'll talk about that.
And no,
Nope.
and you said that at Snoop Dogg, our very first concert, when I was like, I do not want to go down there. There's no room. And you were like, well, I'm in a wheelchair. Watch me.
Yep. Yep.
Also, every time we go to a Thrice concert, you get something from my favorite band. Whether it's a pick, a drumstick, a set list, you always get something.
Because I'm charming.
I am a little bit jealous about it.
I'm charming. Okay.
You are pretty charming.
No, I'm kidding.
No.
But yeah, so there are wheelchair perks. Okay.
And that's fair because
to the front of the line.
There are walking perks too.
Yeah.
So you deserve your wheelchair perks.
I get to the front of the line at concerts, which Kelly has mentioned, and I get lifted over the sometimes, not all the time, which is a good caveat. I get lifted over the barrier. I got to the front of the line for my favorite band, Linkin Park.
Rest in peace, all of Josiah's favorite bands. Please don't make Thrice your favorite band.
I'm not.
Thank you.
For your sake.
Thank you.
But there are wheelchair perks for sure. It's not all black thorns and I don't know, pricklies.
But so that was your favorite is the Under Oath.
Yeah, because I got his guitar.
What about something that we've been together?
Let's see. What was my favorite concert?
We've been to many good ones.
We've been to many good ones.
Many good ones.
Kelly Clarkson.
Oh my God, Kelly Clarkson was so fun. I don't care what anybody says. She slaps.
She slaps, dude.
We saw that at the Air Force Academy.
Yep.
Which was pretty good, accessible. Oh, we went to the Sky Sox Stadium, and remember we had to go through like the freaking locker rooms to get an elevator.
We did.
I'm like, you guys don't have an elevator like in the general public area?
Yeah, we went to Jake Owen.
Yeah, we went to Jake Owen and Chris Jansen.
Why did we even go to that?
We got tickets from the radio station, and Chris Jansen is a very good performer.
I felt bad for Jake Owen.
I did. I love Jake Owen
isn't
too.
Isn't that the venue we went to? That's the stadium. Mm-hmm. We had to go. It felt like a tunnel.
Yeah, we had to like go through the locker rooms, and I was like, "You guys don't have a freaking elevator that's just like to the general public." They did not.
They're like nee.
Nee. But anyway, I forgot about that, and the Air Force Academy was fine. I didn't have a problem. Did you?
Nope.
Cool.
You want to talk about Skillet?
Oh, Skillet was a blast. I forgot about Skillet.
I fell out of my wheelchair and then you cry.
Every time Josiah falls out of his wheelchair, I cry. Skillet was also another one of those things where we were in the accessible seating and
it was good.
It was really great. I think the accessible seating at Pikes Peak Center in Colorado Springs is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
It is. There is a row in front of you, I think, but it's a little bit lower. And it's okay.
I don't think anybody was in front of us.
No one was in front of us, thank God. But
we
then
were now off to the side. But then I didn't know where the exit was. I don't think exits. It was close.
No, because we were in the middle of the venue, but there are exits kind of everywhere outside.
Yeah.
The rows are a little skinny, but it'd be like that. However, we were just chilling. I was having a great time. I thought we had great seats. It sounded great. And then somebody from the Pikes Peak Center was just like grabbed us. And was like, come here. And I'm like, what are we doing? Like, they didn't even ask us. They did not ask us. They were like, come here. And they like, and I remember I was mad because I was like, we're missing this. We're missing my favorite song. Because I think they went into one of my favorite Skillet songs. And I was like, you couldn't have grabbed us during freaking Adelita's Way or whoever was before that. By the way, Adelita's Way was pretty good. But anyway, then they pulled us to the side of the stage.
Yeah.
Not like on stage, but the side of the stage.
The side of the venue.
And let me just say, Jen Ledger is a legend. I just want to throw that out there.
She is a legend.
We will be seeing Skillet very soon.
Very soon. They're coming back, baby!
With Theory of a Dead Man at the Mission Ballroom, so I'm excited about that.
We're going back to the Mission.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So anyway, sorry, I interrupted you. What was your favorite?
I'm going to say it was Black Swan for Story of the Year, that show. But I also want to say A Day to Remember.
Those were both really good. The Story of the Year was amazing.
Or Silverstein.
Silverstein is amazing live.
We'll be friends for a long time and bands will continue to come and go. But I don't think we will ever go to as many concerts as we did in 2021. We had an incredible run, ladies and gentlemen.
We did. And we saw Thrice twice in Florida, which was really fun.
For your B-Day.
For my birthday. We saw Thrice in California.
Yes.
I've seen Thrice in California like 5 times, but you and I went once. The rest I think have been in Colorado. Cool. Well, what else you got?
I don't know.
Thank
you for listening. I am Josiah. I'm your roller as always. Peace and love.
And I am Kelly and I am the stroller. Bye, Beetses.
Thank you for listening to the Roller and the Stroller podcast. We're rolling out.
This is a Sidewall Studios production.
Boom! Oh, we should keep that moving.